And so when I say Chinese, I want you to scream out the nation that's associated with this. For example, if I say Chinese, you're going to say what?
China.
All right, let's say it with authority. When I say Chinese, you say what? China. All right, that's just a test right there. So here we go. Chinese.
China.
Russian.
Russia.
Italian.
Italy.
German.
Germany.
Swedish.
Sweden.
Korean.
Korea.
Egyptian.
Egypt.
Nigerian.
Nigeria.
Black.
Exactly. Nothing. Tell him, Pastor. Tell him, Pastor. Black, nothing.
I hope you were able to successfully identify the issue.
That's why you called Israel. Is it real? No, it's not. How did we leave there black and come back white? How did we leave there black and come back white? How did we leave there black and come back white? How did we leave there black and come back white? Can somebody answer that for me? Can somebody answer that for me? Can somebody answer that for me? Can somebody answer that for me?
They say, go see the African History Museum. Why do they start when the boats came? Why don't they start with the drums?
When we was kings.
Yeah. Oh, they don't want it, but we are kings. Mm-hmm. But the 400 years doesn't have to deal with slavery. It has to deal with the Bible. It has to deal with us being disobedient to God. Us as 12 tribes of Judah, as a member of the Hebrew people, we are still inside of our genocide. 50% of all black deaths a year is abortion.
I'm telling you in history about Israel and Egypt and Africa, and they act like them in whole different places. I mean, if I told you Atlanta and Florida was in the South, I'm telling the truth, right? That's the same distance between Israel, Egypt, and Africa. Israel, Egypt, and Africa. Israel, Egypt, and Africa. If I told you Atlanta and Florida was in the South, I'm telling the truth, right? That's the same distance between Israel, Egypt, and Africa. Every black person that ain't Muslim is Christian. As far as our family go back. Guess what they don't tell us? How the fuck did all our black families become Christian overnight? How come they don't never tell you what the fuck we stopped doing so we can start doing this? So we can start doing this. So we can start doing this.
I'm so glad you're here because you can bring great clarity. Can you tell us a little bit about the Sephardic Jews and how they were scattered because they went west?
I sure can.
Because the reason why I want to is because a lot of them, and a lot of people don't know this, are in the Caribbean.
They are.
In the islands.
And you're one of them. I know that. I'm one of them. I know that.
Because, you know, a lot of folk don't know that those roots are there. One of the first batches of slaves that came to Jamaica they were the Sephardic Jews. It's documented.
And they're all over the Caribbean,
over the Caribbean,
South America, Central America, and even the South Central United States.
Wow.
And DNA testing is a factor in all this now.
The white man is enacting a story all over the world. We left our homes and flooded the world. We smothered culture. We smothered knowledge. We erased history and rewrote it our way. Myself, my grandfather is 100% Ashkenazi Jewish. Claiming to be Jewish, Ashkenazi Jewish is just a conspiracy. White men claiming to be of tribes of Israel when I'm Germanic. You know, I have no ties to Israel, no ties to Judaism. You know, except loosely written history that's been whitewashed over for centuries. And, you know,
from the Renaissance.
Oh yeah, right. You wipe everything clean. It's funny how exactly the Renaissance. It's this rebirth, but it's white rebirth. I think at the same exact time that Renaissance is happening, Columbus is sailing to America and committing genocide.
The King James, it says the wages of sin is death. And yet in the Mirror Bible, it says the rewards of the law is death. Well, how do you hook that together? Well, first of all, understand the devil is not trying to get you to sin. He's just trying to get you to keep the law. Because if he can get you to keep the law, you will sin. You see, Romans chapter 7 says, for without the law, sin was dead. There is no sin without a law. There's no transgression of a speed limit if there's, first of all, not a law that gives you a limit, a speed limit. So without the law, there is no sin. Without the law, sin will have no opportunity. And what many people think, they think Satan's trying to get you to sin. And Satan's trying to tempt you to do this or to do that. No. All he's trying to get you to do is to keep the law.
Genesis chapter 11 verse 10 explains the genealogy of Shem. Shem was a black man in Africa. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at
I want to say peace and blessings, family. Let me make sure that my mic is set up here correctly. Let me see here. All right, yeah, we good. If you guys can hear me clearly, type 1. If you guys can hear me clearly, type 1. All right, and we're going to go ahead and get started here. If you guys can hear me, type 1. We got a lot to cover tonight, right? We got part 2. This is part 2 from last night's lesson. And family, I encourage you guys, listen to the lesson. You know, we have so many people that are so argumentative, so busy trying to debunk and, you know, listen to the lesson. I had comments that was in the comment section, emails that was sent to me, asking me questions about what was covered in the presentation. You had some that was trying to put a whole dissertation inside the comment section on what I had already covered inside the lesson. So I want to encourage everyone, listen to the whole lesson. Listen to the entire lesson before you form an opinion. Now, last night's lesson was to prove to you that the law is not done away with. You know, the law of Moses, given that clarity. Now, I do have an even more in-depth teaching that I am going to do that's already on this channel, right? I did it about 2 years ago on the covenant. And I'll do that lesson again to go even further, go even deeper with proving that we still have to obey the law, statutes, and commandments and giving proper clarity. So yesterday was just part of that lesson, right? So I want to make it clear. So for those that are trolling and, you know, want to know more, go look in the thread. You'll see it there. Or when I do the full teaching, whatever arguments that you think you have, I will shut down. It was shut down yesterday, but whatever arguments you think you have, in terms of trying to show, hey, the disciples didn't teach the Gentiles to that they had to learn or they obey the law of Moses and all that other stuff. I gave you proper clarity yesterday, but I could go even deeper with that. All right. So just want to give clarity on that. I'm not going to utilize a lot of this time, a lot of this space dealing with that. But family, again, Shammai or Shammai, which means transliterates to hearken. Also, it means listen with intelligence. Family, we have to have discernment like never before. And so before we get started, and I want to go ahead and give some shout outs here. I want to start by acknowledging here. I want to give thanks to Karima Lyricist for the gift that was shared tonight. Really appreciate the gift that was shared. And family, let's show some love because, really appreciate it. Really appreciate Karima. Really appreciate what you sowed into the platform, to the work that we're doing here. And I really appreciate all the gifts and just the presence of you guys being here. I really appreciate it. So let's show some love, family, for Miss Karima Lyricist. And actually want to know more about the lyricist portion of your title, because it looks like you are, according to your title, that you're a writer. I used to be into slam poetry. Used to do the hip hop scene, but I also was in slam poetry. And when I was in the New York, New Jersey area, I used to go over to the New Eurekan a lot. Also used to go to a place called Bogies. Man, I had a lot of memories back then over in East Orange, New Jersey. So we used to go over there to the Bogies. And I'm sure those that are from the Brick City, North New Jersey, that was there in the early 2000s would know what I'm talking about when I mentioned Bogies. That was just a unique place, Bogies. And we used to make our runs going over to the New Eurekan. A lot of people that I used to roll with, Talam AC, Lamar Hill. Actually, Lamar Hill and I were military buddies back in the day. So Lamar Hill, Talam AC, Helena. She's still doing her thing over there. Actually, she's also achieved her doctorate. She does social work over in New York, but she's doing a lot in the poetry, spoken word scene. So would definitely like to know more about your writing, and so would love to have, even possibly if you're okay with it, to bring you on the channel, and talk about it. Really interested in your work. So let's go ahead and do some shout outs real quick here, family. Again, let's show some love for Karima Lyricist. And if you have a YouTube channel, feel free to let me know, and we'll definitely bring it up here and introduce it to the rest of the people. So I want to start off by saying peace and blessings to Zena Roan. And I hope I pronounced it correctly. And my apologies if I didn't. My apologies. Peace and blessings to Darnell Blackshear, Ali Power. Peace and blessings to you. Let's see here. Ban Yan Yashara Al. I want to say peace and blessings to you. Yaquaba. I want to say peace and blessings to you. Let's see here. Sister Joy, really appreciate you. Thank you for the love and support. Peace and blessings to you. Sister Carol, I want to say peace and blessings to you. Now, what are you screaming about, Sister Carol? What's so funny? Or are you guys laughing at the image that's in the background? Maybe that's what it is. I was just curious what's the joke? And that's probably what it is. You guys are laughing at the backdrop here, But you guys know how I am. Like the imagery is part of bringing forth a certain message, and so. You guys already know the message that I want to bring out today. So appreciate you, Sister Carol. Stay on Fire Ministry. I want to say peace and blessings to you. Amiyah, I want to say peace and blessings to you. Ernest Higgs, peace and blessings to you. I want to say shalom to you. Thank you for the love and support. Yvette Rivera, want to say peace and blessings to you. Shalom to you, sis. Let's see here. Susan Gibney, want to say peace and blessings to you. Jay Bow, want to say peace and blessings to you. Let's see here. Who else do we have here? I know the chat's starting to pick up here. Let's see here. And again, peace and blessings to you again. Karima Lyricist, appreciate you. Inspired Identity, want to say peace and blessings to you. Appreciate the love and support. C. Scranton, or Scranton, excuse me. Want to say shalom to you. Lemuria Johnson, peace and blessings to you. Shabbat, shalom or shalom to you. Hope you guys had a great Shabbat. BDT, want to say shalom to you. Yah's grace, peace and blessings to you. My cousin, Dr. Sean E. Carr. Show some love to my cousin here. Got a great platform. Let's push to get him up to reach that 5,000 number. So I want to say peace and blessings to you, my cousin. Hope and pray that you enjoyed your time off. Hope and pray you enjoyed your Shabbat. Cindy Clark, shalom to you. Black to my roots, peace and blessings. Shalom to you. Who else do we have here? Rashida, I want to say peace and blessings to you. Let's see here. Diamond Love, peace and blessings to you. Siya, peace and blessings. Charles West, Second Exodus, Diamond Love, want to say peace and blessings to you guys. Who else do I have here? Dexter Lyons, want to say peace and blessings to you, my brother. Shalom to you. And really appreciate you making that transition like I did coming out of the church, and especially knowing the whole Kojic scene. So you really understand the details and, and the things that I speak on when we're dealing with the Pentecostal movement and some of the things, the traditions that we had to deal with even over there. So really appreciate you, my brother. Let's see here. Let's see. Did I get everyone? Mr. West or Mr. W, want to say peace and blessings to you. Dimitri, peace and blessings to you. Shalom to you. Sheila, Sister Sheila, blessings. I want to say peace and blessings to you. Black to my roots. Victor Wheatley. And I'm trying to get through this because there are more and more people popping on. So if I miss your name, please don't charge it to my heart. Charge it to my head, not to my heart. Old school right there. Angela Bolton, want to say peace and blessings to you. Let's see here. Monica Dixon, peace and blessings to you. I think we got everyone. And again, we'll ask questions to get more participation, and that'll give me more opportunities to acknowledge you guys that are here inside the chat. And again, I really appreciate the love and support from you guys. So we're going to go ahead and get started, family. We're going to go ahead and get started. And also want to just say peace and blessings. Thank you, brother Nirya Yashara Al. Thank you for the gift here. Really appreciate the blessing. You really investing into the works that we do here. Family, let's show brother Nirya Yashara Al. Let's show some love for him for the gift to our platform, not my platform, to our platform. Let's show him some love here. All right. So again, really appreciate the gift here. Let me pull you up here so everyone can see you. Really appreciate you. All right. So let's see here. C. Brooke, want to say peace and blessings to you as well. Thank you for the love and support. And I want to say peace and blessings to my brother Jay Highstyle is in the building. Everyone, let's give some love, show some love for Jay Highstyle. That's my buddy right here. All right. So we're going to go ahead and get started, family. And we'll you guys know how I like to interact, and we'll continue from there. So I'm going to go ahead and take this down, and I'm going to maximize my screen here so that way you guys can actually see. Let me see here. Let me maximize my screen. All right. So we're going to pick up where we left off last night, right? We are going to pick up where we left off last night. And I want to set the tone by showing this video clip one more time. and then we'll get into the lesson, because I did say I was going to give a little sample of this mirror Bible that Creflo was quoting from, right? So we're gonna go ahead and show that clip, and then we're going to get right into it, because we have a lot to cover tonight. So really appreciate you guys for enduring to the end of the lesson last night. Many of you guys wanted me to continue on, but had to teach this morning at our Shabbat service. So, but nevertheless, let's go ahead and show this clip, and then we'll get right into the lesson.
The King James, it says the wages of sin is death. And yet in the Mirror Bible, it says the rewards of the law is death. Well, how do you hook that together? Well, first of all, understand the devil is not trying to get you to sin. He's just trying to get you to keep the law. Because if he can get you to keep the law, you will sin. You see, Romans chapter 7 says, for without the law, sin was dead. There is no sin without a law. There's no transgression of a speed limit if there's, first of all, not a law that gives you a limit, a speed limit. So without the law, there is no sin. Without the law, sin will have no opportunity. And what many people think, they think Satan's trying to get you to sin. And Satan's trying to tempt you to do this or to do that. No, no. All he's trying to get you to do is to keep the law.
Just wanted to start off by giving him the bucket. We got to start off early. And as you hear in his words, right, it's saying a lot of craziness, family. And so tonight we're going to knock down the witchcraft that this warlock is spewing out there. And I'm going to call it like it is. Anyone that is bending, twisting the word of the Most High is a warlock, is a witch. And I can't believe that many people are trying to celebrate this person. Now, I will say this as I stated last night, right? The Most High have a great sense of humor. Now the church is going to have to answer the question, because those that are teaching that we are not under the law, but then teaching tithe, right? That's a contradiction. Teaching tithe, but you're not teaching the Shabbat. That's a contradiction. How can you teach the tithe, right? And the tithe, right, existed before Israel came about, conceived. The Shabbat was there from the very beginning. So how can you say we're not under the law, but you still doing the tithe? How can you say we're not under the law, right? You're doing tithe, but you're not honoring the Shabbat. So those are some of the questions that we should be asking. So the silver lining out of all of this, it's forcing the church to talk. It's forcing them to address things that they've been kicking the can down the road. Right? So that's the only silver lining that I see in this, that is forcing more discussions. Now, the flip side of this, right, family, I'm seeing a lot of Bruce, really champion Creflo, not just Bruce, but other people champion him because of what he said about the tithe. Family, Creflo did not apologize. And his reasoning for saying that the tithe, right, is no longer in effect is because he disregards the law and the prophets. The law, which is the first 5 books of the Bible, and the prophets, which is the works of the prophets that the Most High used. So I encourage you guys, watch part 1, and I actually go into depth explaining this. Okay. So again, that's the silver lining out of this. So tonight, what we're going to focus on, we are going to focus on breaking down the tithe. What is the tithe? Are we required to continue tithing? Did the Messiah do away with the tithe? Did the Most High say stop tithing? We are going to answer these questions. We are going to answer the questions of people floating around this idea among the Hebrew Israelite community that the Levitical priest no longer exists. We got a lot to cover tonight. We have a lot to cover tonight, and we're going to do that. We're going to achieve that tonight. I want to show some love. Everyone, 78 Yvette. Let's show Sister Yvette some love for her gift that she blessed us with tonight. Let's show her some love, family. Everyone in the chat, let's show her some love. And moderators, let's make sure too that if we have anyone trolling, trying to be a distraction, you guys already know how to handle that. All right, you know what to do. So, but again, thank you, Sister Yvette. Thank you for the love, support. Really appreciate you. So again, family, let's show Sister Yvette some love here for the contribution tonight. Really appreciate you for us just really investing in what we do here on We Woke Now. All right. So let's go ahead and talk about this. Let's go ahead and talk about this. All right. Here we go. Let's start with 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 14 and 15. And I'm saying this, I'm going over these passages for a reason, to set up and really sharpen our discernment, you know, put it at a high alert for the day and time we live in, because there's a lot of stuff that's being spewed out, a lot of stuff, a lot of contradictions that are being spewed out that we need to address here. So 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 14 and 15, it says this: and no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. In other words, a messenger of the truth. Transform himself into an angel of light, a messenger of the truth. Therefore, it is no great thing if his ministers, notice it says Satan, Hashatan, has ministers, also be transformed as the ministers of righteous, whose end shall be according to their work. So Hasatan transformed himself to pretend to try to be something that he's not, a messenger of light, and his ministers are doing the same thing. What are they using? They're using the word, and they're perverting the word. They are bending and twisting the word. Iniquity, anomia, which means to transgress. It means to twist. It means to bend, distort the Most High's commandments. I'll read it one more time. And no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel, malach, messenger of light. Therefore is no great thing. In other words, don't be surprised. It shouldn't be a shocker to you. That's what this is actually saying. Excuse me. That his ministers are doing the same thing, pretending to be messengers of light, messengers of the truth, pretending, trying to look the part as if they are righteous. As you see it, transformed as the ministers of righteousness, whose end shall be according to their works. So if Hasatan and his ministers pretend to be messengers of light, this means they also have a doctrine. Let me say that again. If Hasatan and his ministers pretend to be the messenger of light, the messengers of truth, that means they have a doctrine. They have a doctrine. And I'm going to reveal to you this doctrine. I am going to highlight some things out of this doctrine, just a couple of passages, just so that way we can get a full understanding of this warning here. So what is the doctrine of Hasatan? What is the doctrine of Hashatan or Hashatam or Hasatan? What is the doctrine? What is his doctrine? What is the doctrine of Hashatan? Let's start here, right? I'm going to go to Romans chapter 6, verse 23. And I want you guys to pay attention to this. Now, this is the KJV version I'm going to give you, but then I'm going to show you out of the paraphrased Bible that Creflo Dollar teach from, and many of these mega ministry preachers and their understudies teach from. They teach from what is called the Mirror's Bible, the Mirror Bible, which is an extreme paraphrase Bible. See, a paraphrase Bible is basically someone putting the text into their own words, their own expressions, like the Message Bible, even though it's listed as a translation, right? But really, the Message Bible is really a paraphrase Bible. Okay, so let's go to Romans chapter 6, verse 23. And family, go to this verse with me. Go to this verse with me, because I want you to see this. Here we go. For the wages of sin is death, but the gift of Yahweh is eternal life. Through Yahweh Shai Hamashiach, in other words, Jesus the Christ, our Adonai, in other words, Lord. Right? Yours going to read without Yahweh, you'll see God here, and you'll just see Jesus Christ, and you see Lord. All right. But here, because we know that the ancient Israelites did not use generic terms, it was very descriptive with what they wrote. These are translations that inserted the word God and Lord. So what you see here is the actual ancient pronunciation of the Most High's name. All right. And his son's name. And we see Lord, where the word Lord transliterates from. So I'll read it one more time. For the wages, and you see the actual way it reads in your Bible, for the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life through Jesus Christ our Lord. So for the wages of sin is death, but the gift of Yahweh is eternal life through Yahweh Shai Hamashiach, Jesus the Christ, our Adonai. Now let's go to the Mirror Bible. Let's see how the Mirror Bible reads. And I want you guys to pay attention to this. Pull your Bibles out. Some of you guys shake the dust off, because I know we so used to having Bible apps. Pull out that physical Bible. We're going to have Bible study tonight. Pull out your physical Bible, right? Shake the dust off of it, right? And go to Romans chapter 6, verse 23. If you're using the KJV, fine. If you're using the Amplified Bible, fine. If you're using the NIV, but it's still not going to read the way that I'm going to share with you. I'm not going to knock you right now, but we'll deal with the different Bible translations and the manuscripts another time. But here we go. Let's go here. Have it out here, family. Now you read it as I read it. Now let me go into the Mirror's Bible. Let's see what the Mirror Bible read. This is that same passage in the Mirror's Bible. Notice what it says here. The reward of the law is death. Notice what it says. The reward of the law is death. You can't make this up, family. You cannot make this up. The reward of the law is death. What? That's what it says in the Mirror Bible. This is what he's quoting. Let me pull up the clip again for those that have joined late. Let's hear what Creflo says again, because he's going to make reference to the Mirror Bible, and he's going to quote what you see here on your screen. Here it is.
The King James, it says the wages of sin is death. And yet in the Mirror Bible, it says the rewards of the law is death. Well, how do you hook that together? Well, first of all, understand the devil is not trying to get you to sin. He's just trying to get you to keep the law. Because if he can get you to keep the law, you will sin. You see, Romans chapter 7 says, for without the law, sin was dead. There is no sin without a law. There's no transgression of a speed limit if there's, first of all, not a law that gives you a limit, a speed limit. So without the law, there is no sin. Without the law, sin will have no opportunity. And what many people think, they think Satan's trying to get you to sin. And Satan's trying to tempt you to do this or to do that. No. All he's trying to get you to do is to keep the law.
All right, family. So you heard him teach out of the Mirror Bible. He read this out of the Mirror Bible. He read out of the Mirror Bible. And guess what? To all those that are in the church who's teaching that the law is dead, teaching that that we're not to adhere to the law, statutes and commandments of the Most High. You're wrong. You're in sin. And we're going to do a special teaching on that. We're going to do a special teaching on that. Right? We're going to do a special teaching on that. But again, notice what it says here. It says here, the reward of the law is death. So this is what Creflo says, that, hey, you know what? Satan wants you to honor the law. Come on, family. Is that a forked tongue or what? The reward of the law is death. The gift of grace is life. The bottom line is this: sin employs you like a soldier for its cause and rewards you with death. God's gifts you with the highest quality of life, all wrapped up in Christ Jesus, our leader. See, family, this is why you have to be careful with all these different versions, and because version is just a version of somebody else's translation or paraphrase version of the Bible. You got to be careful of this. Know what manuscripts that it's based off of. That's why I stay clear of any Bible that's based off of the Alexandria manuscript, the Codex Sinaiticus, which you also have the Codex Vaticanus. Right? I stay away from those because you'll see that in comparison to those Bibles that comes out of that are based off of those manuscripts, you'll see that there's a lot of Gnostic overtones to those set of manuscripts. All right, so let's go to another passage here. And we'll get into our meat and potatoes here tonight, right? This is Romans chapter 7, because he mentioned Romans chapter 7, and we're going to highlight verse 8 through 10 inside his Mirror Bible. Notice what his Mirror Bible says. But the commandment triggered sin into action. Suddenly, an array of sinful appetites were awakened in me. The law broke sin's dormancy. So what this is saying, they're saying once the Most High gave a command, it caused sin to enter in. As long as he didn't come up with any commandments, that there was nothing that can be considered sin. Family, that is the spirit of lasciviousness. When you don't have no rules, when you don't have no boundaries, any and everything goes. That's the Genesis 3:5 doctrine that I call it. That's what this is promoting. That you can remove the Most High out of what righteousness is. You don't need the Most High, so to speak, as Hasatan was saying to Eve, to be inside our business. You could establish your own boundaries. This flesh, guess what? You could never please this flesh. This flesh is going to always crave more. This flesh will never be content. So, but the commandments triggered sin into action. Suddenly, an array of sinful appetites were awakened in me. The law broke sin's dormancy. Notice what it says here, family. Without the law, I was alive. Notice what it says. Without the law, without the commandments, without the instructions of the Most High, I was alive. The law was introduced, sin revived, and I died. Instead of being my guide to life, the commandment proved to be a death sentence. This is what this warlock is teaching. And he's spewing this out to the congregation. And no one is pulling his coat on this. Why? Because many are programmed to allow the pastor to bring the teaching and they don't cross-reference anything. That should have been a major red flag there. A major red flag. So said the commandment proved to be a death sentence. So let's go to the actual text. Let's go to Romans chapter 7, verse 8 through 12. Let's get proper clarity here. What shall we say then? Is the law sin? Yahweh forbid. Wait a minute. It's making it clear because we dealt with circumcision yesterday, and we know that the law of circumcision is not sin. We know that the law, because we have to really delve into to see the distinction between the law of circumcision and also the law, in other words, the first 5 books of Moses, that we see that many are confusing and just lumping everything in. The law, the instructions that the Most High gave to Moses to give to Israel. Those first 5 books that you'll see listed there, the 10 commandments, the covenant. So what shall we say then? Is the law sin? Yah forbid. Nay, I had not known sin, but by the law, for I had not known lust, except the law has said, thou shalt not covet. In other words, what this is saying is, when you out there in that world, and we all been out there, we all been out living that life. I've been out there in that world, and I'm not going to make it seem like I was living a miserable life of sin. Let me make it clear. Don't you fall for those testimonies in church, because I know many of you guys that grew up in church like I have, and you have the testimony portion of the service, and you'll hear someone come in and you always had that one person to make it seem like they were living a miserable life of sin. Family, I'm not even going to lie to you. I was out in the world, and I enjoyed being out there in the world for a moment, because even that had its price, right? So without any boundaries, your flesh is going to crave more and more and more until it completely dries you out. Family, none of us can handle 100% of ourselves uncut. I cannot handle me, Pastor Richardson, 100% uncut. Man, most of us can't even handle 30% of ourselves uncut. Can you imagine 100% of yourself uncut? No boundaries? Where would you be right now? Most of us would be dead right now. So what shall we say then? Is the law sin? Yahweh forbid. Nay, I had not known sin, but by the law, for I had not known lust, except the law had said, thou shalt not covet. It goes on to say, but sin taking occasion by the commandment wrought me in all manner of concupiscence. For without the law, sin was dead. For I was alive without the law once, but when the commandment came, sin revived and I died. And I'm going to explain this real quick here. And then when we get to verse 10 and 11, this is the key. This is what you have to read here. This is the part that they don't continue on. Verse 10 says, and the commandment which was ordained to life, I found to be unto death. Right? Notice this. We're going to give clarity here. For sin taking occasion by the commandment deceived me. For sin taking occasion by the commandment deceived me, and by it slew me. But notice what verse 12 says. Wherefore the law is holy, and the commandment holy, just and good. So let me make it clear. The law, the commandments are not going to lead you into sin. It's not going to deceive you. That's what Paul is making it clear here. The law is not sin. Now I'm going to explain this text to you to put things in its proper perspective, because it says in verse 12, wherefore the law. Now we know that law is interchangeable with instructions, statutes, instructions. So the instructions of the Most High is holy, and the commandment, right? Holy, just, and good. So that shuts down and all the nonsense of how many within the church teach the law, statutes, and commandments. So the law is holy. In other words, set apart and full of purity, majesty, and glory. Set apart in that it reveals Yahweh's nature and will. It's set apart in that it exposes sin, all that is contrary to Yahweh's nature and his will. So that's the key. No, it's not the commandments of the Most High is bringing us into sin. No, it's allowing us to see what sin really is. It's bringing boundaries, letting us know what we should not be doing. Because without this, lasciviousness. That's what Israel went into this state when you read the time of the judges before the time of the kings came into play. Said Israel did what was right in their own eyes. They did what was right in their own eyes. Family, this is the stuff we have to be careful of. The law is holy in that it is different and set apart from everything else on earth. So what Paul is saying, before he actually understood the law, statutes, and commandments, when basically he was free to doing whatever he wanted to do because he had no boundaries. See, that's what happens. And I believe all of us came to this thought, right? Had this thought before. It seemed like once you came into the knowledge of the Most High, gave your life over to Christ, it seemed like that's when things really got harder. Well, actually it did. Because when you were out in that world, just like being on that wide road, right? That wide road, you don't have to give up anything. But once you get onto that narrow road, going through that straight gate, now you got to give up stuff. That's the dirty road, because you got to give up stuff. You can't just go through the eye of the needle. You can't just take all your garbage and junk there. You got to get rid of stuff. You got to downsize. So family, this is what is being taught, and we're going to deal with this even more, right? We're going to deal with this even more, but not tonight. So let's highlight John 5, verse 5, and also John chapter 5, verse 2 and 3, and then we're going to get into the tithing, right? By this we know that we love the children of Yahweh, when we love Yahweh and keep his commandments, for this is the love of Yah. This is the love of Yahweh, that we keep his commandments, and his commandments are not grievous. Let me say that again. This is what you have to pull out to these Christian apologists who's pushing the notion that the commandments are grievous. That's how they teach it. Oh, nobody could understand the law. Nobody could keep the law. No, that's a complete lie. For this is the love of Yahweh, that we keep his commandments. Didn't say the commandments of Christ. Why? Because the Messiah made it clear in John chapter 7, what he teach is not his own doctrine. It comes directly from the Father. So these commandments, and it's not the commandments of Christ, they're referred to as the commandments of Yah. That's in the Torah that many are disregarding. For this is the love, ahab, of Yahweh, that we keep his commandments, and his commandments are not grievous. So family, let's go ahead and get into the meat and potatoes now. Let's get into the meat and potatoes. I know I spent a lot of time, some of the time over there, and we'll circle back, not in this lesson, because we still got a lot to cover. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. Right, let's deal with the tithing now. Let's get into this discussion. Is the tithing biblical? Is the tithing done away with? When did tithing begin in the scriptures? Let's start with Matthew chapter 6, verse 1 through 4. And brothers and sisters, pull out your Bible. Make notes of these passages that we're going to go over. So that way it helps you, remember what we covered. Right? Because as I'm stating it and you're reading it, now you're actually recording it. You're becoming what is called a good witness. Right? So then when you go to play it back in your memory, you can play it back with accuracy. That's the key. We're all called to be a witness, but a good witness is measured by the playback. If you don't have a good playback, you're not a good witness. So write it down, go to the scriptures, so that way you can retain this information even more. Okay. So let's go to Matthew chapter 6, verse 1 through 4. Take heed, right, that ye do not your alms before men, to be seen of them. Otherwise ye have no reward of your Father which is in heaven. Therefore, when thou doest thine alms, do not sound the trumpet before thee, as the hypocrites do, right? Because you guys been in church, especially being in Kojic, man, they were broadcast the tithes. They're broadcast the offerings. They have their $100 lines. You some of you guys seen how they raise money? Sound like they auctioning. All right, we're going to go ahead and lift the offering here. We have a goal here, Pastor. What's the goal here? Oh, you're not going to say right now. Okay, well, this is what we're going to do. All right, we're going to just go ahead and start off. We're going to start off with a $100 line. If there's anyone right now have a $100 line, God doesn't like God loves a cheerful giver. Is there anyone in here that have $100? Matter of fact, if we could get 10 people inside the assembly can give us $100, then that'll help set the tone. All right, come on, let's jump up in the line. Now, do we have anyone that have 50? Anyone that have 50? Come on, jump up right behind them. All right, do we have anyone here that have $20? All right, come on, guys, come on, let's do this fast. I don't believe in preaching. I don't believe in auctioning God. So we got the 20. All right, now anyone that have $10? All right, come on up. Now, all right, the rest of you guys, come on. Then you go through all of that, lifting the offering. Then they come back. Oh, we're short $1,000. All right. Now we could do this pretty quick. All right. If we could get 10 people to give a $100, we could get through this pretty quick. 10 people give $100, or can we get 20 people give $50? They will go down the line. You guys, if I'm correct, if you guys know, if you guys witness this, type 1. If what I'm saying is true, type 1. Family, I've seen all kinds of crazy stuff inside the church. I've seen the pastor come up to the table as they're lifting the offering. Once they did the count, pulled out his briefcase and put the tithe inside his briefcase and walked off in front of the people. The foolishness that we see. So we all in agreement. We all have witnessed this foolishness. And man, I was in Kojic for almost 10 years. And I've seen Kojic. They did the impossible. Somehow they raised $1,500 from about 12 people. I'm like, what in the world? How did they do that? Kojic can raise some money, family. They raise money, man. People complain about it, but they giving. They still endorsing and pushing this behavior. And this is not, and don't get into the doozies. Don't get into your report. That's in Kojic, they call it the report, especially when you go to the different conferences. They call it the report. Everyone have to give a report. If you're an elder, you have to give a report. If you're a minister, you have to give a report. The lay people, you have to give a report. It's all a certain amount. Come on, family. It's all up in the church. Now, in the Baptist church that I grew up at, they had people paying dues. You had to pay dues. You had tithes and offering, and you had dues. Okay, so here it's saying, therefore, when thou doest thine alms, right? Now, let me go back to the beginning here. Let's go back. Yeah, let's see if I have verse 1. Let's break this down. Take heed that ye do not your alms before men to be seen of them. And you have people doing offering lines to be seen. Otherwise, ye have no reward of your Father which is in heaven. Therefore, when thou doest thine alms, do not sound a trumpet. You don't have to broadcast what you're doing for the Most High, right? Do not sound a trumpet before thee, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, that they may have glory of men. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. Verse 3, but when thou doest alms, let not thy left hand know what thy right hand doeth, that thine alms may be in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret himself shall reward thee openly. So, family, we need to understand, right? Tithing begins with understanding the alms. The understanding of tithing begins with understanding the alms. Let me say that again. And I want you guys to pay attention here. I really want y'all to grab this. In order for you to truly understand tithing, You have to understand alms. So let's deal with alms. Let's start with alms, and we're going to walk through this. We're going to slow walk this here, right? Compassionateness, an example, as exercised towards the poor, right? We see here benefaction. We see this is the key that I really want to highlight: a donation to the poor, alms. So again, we see compassionateness, exercise towards the poor, a donation to the poor. And I'm going to break this down here so that way you guys can understand this. Alms simply means compassionateness exercised towards the poor. Because the reason why I'm going through this, because there's a lot of people within the Israelite community, right, that are teaching that tithe is done away with, but we give alms. Family, that's not correct. We're going to put this all together, right? We're going to put all of this together so that way you can have a better understanding. And I want to make this clear. I am not teaching tithing and alms with the goal of you guys giving me money. That's not my goal here. My goal is so that way you guys understand what it means. And then guess what? You do what you're supposed to do. That's between you and the Most High. It's not me here to micromanage anyone. In our assembly, I taught the principles, the truth about tithing, right? And guess what? I don't know what anyone give. I keep out of that. I don't have any questions. The ministers, all that they do, they give whatever they give is between them and the Most High. So I want to make sure we clear on that. So don't feel like I'm doing this lesson because I'm trying to raise money. No, that's not what this is. This is to give you a proper understanding. Many churches, right, they have their ministers give them their pay stubs so they can establish how much and how and what to expect in terms of their tithe. They have their members, right? They have the people give their pay stubs, their tax statements, so they know exactly what the people are in their mind supposed to give. Nah, we don't do all of that. Never have, never agreed with all that stuff. You know, that's just over the top. Whatever in our assembly the people give, you know, that's not for me to go back to them and say, hey, family, you know what? Looking here at the offering, you haven't really been given. No, we don't do that. All right, we don't do that. So alms simply means compassionateness exercised towards the poor. Okay. So let's go to alms under the Oxford Dictionary. Let's see what the Oxford Dictionary says about this. It says money or food given to the poor. Okay. So according to Oxford, alms means money given to the poor. Now let's go to the Etymology Dictionary of alms. It says charitable relief of the poor. Alms giving, right? Act of relieving the needy. So again, as we see here, alms means charitable relief of the poor. So we see alms is in connection to those that are in need. And we're going to double back to this. Make a note of this. So alms means charitable relief to those that are in need, to the poor, those that are financially challenged. Here's the Greek definition of the word charity. Here's the Greek definition of it. Notice what it says. Love, an example, affection, benevolence, charity, goodwill. Now, guys, have you got confused by this as well? Because I used to ask this question when I was growing up in the Baptist church, because you have the tithes and offering. Then you also had the benevolence offering. And I'm asking myself, because I was a little whiz kid when it came to the Bible. I did a lot of reading of it, was in all kinds of competitions, Bible bowls, and all of that growing up in the Baptist church. So I had questions, and I couldn't wrap my head around this. Right? I couldn't wrap my head around this. Have you guys asked the question? What's the difference, especially if you guys came up in the Baptist church? See, I grew up Baptist, but I had Pentecostal pastors in my family, Kojic, all kinds of high positions within there. And then once my wife and I, when we got married, we went into our first 10 years of our marriage, we were in Kojic. So have you guys asked this question? Benevolence. Wait a minute. We got tithes and offering, but then you have a benevolence offering. That didn't make sense, because the benevolence is supposed to be towards those that are in need. Benevolence, right? As we just pointed out, benevolence, alms. So how do you have tithes and you have offering? Then you have a separate offering that says benevolence. See, family, benevolence is interchangeable with alms. So how do you have tithes and offering and you have a separate benevolence offering? That's a contradiction. That's that in itself tell you that it makes absolutely no sense, that they are incorrect. So we're going to break this down as I'm pointing out. So let's go to the benevolent. Let's see what the word benevolence for the poor. Also Christian love in its highest manifestation. This is where we get into agape. But notice what you see here, charity. That's what it basically means. Benevolence, charity, mercy, compassion, alms. So they're interchangeable, but it deals with those that are in lack. So charity is benevolence for the poor. So when did Yah ever need our donations? Come on, let's be real with this, family, because we are in a donation mindset when we give to the Most High. The Most High don't need your charity. He don't need you to act like you're doing him a favor when you give. Family, my grandmother taught me and raised me well with knowing how to tithe. But I wasn't tithing. I was like, man, shoot, it was easy to tithe when I was, not making much money. But man, as that income began to go up, I'm like, hey, I'm gonna still give that other stuff there, but we'll deal with that when we get there, family. I'm gonna explain where I'm going at with it. But when did the Most High ever need our donations? See, we are, the way we think of donations, we think of hand-me-downs. Right? That's our mindset. People give donations like when they're giving clothes, man, one of the ugliest things to see is when you're doing a clothing ministry, doing stuff for outreach, and people are bringing stuff that they would never wear, that they used to wear, they don't wear anymore. I remember someone donated a table to our ministry, right? And the table was terrible. In the words of Charles Barkley, straight terrible. It was just straight terrible. I had to reject them. Like, you wouldn't even eat on this thing, and you bringing it over to the ministry? Come on, family. We're going to put what donations, alms, in its proper perspective. When did Yah need our donations? Whatever you have left, because that's how people will treat donations. That's how many people treat giving to those that don't have, as I give you whatever I don't need, whatever's left. I'll give you the stuff that I can't wear anymore. I give you the stuff that my children can't wear anymore. Hand-me-downs. Family, I'm gonna tell you, I had to wear hand-me-downs, me and my brothers. My grandmother couldn't afford going to the clothing store with 14 kids, her grandkids. So guess what? We got what is called hand-me-downs. So we had people from the church donating clothes, and it's nothing like, one of the worst feelings you could ever have. You got on something that you feel good about, and you go to church and somebody tell you, that nice nasty deaconess, that nice nasty missionary, come up to you and say, hey, your clothes look that outfit look really nice. Yeah, I gave it to your grandmother. That such and such used to wear this, and it just got too small for him. So I gave it to her to give to you. Nothing like having church folks remind you that you wearing stuff that they didn't have care for anymore. I've been in that arena. Come on, family. You guys know this is the truth right here. Many of us have a donation mindset. All right. When? That nice nasty. I didn't know that we were poor until I went to church. I didn't know we were poor until I went to church. It was church folks that told me I was poor. Come on, family. I could give you some testimonies. But not everyone in the church was like that, because there were some men in the church that took care of me. All right. I'll share that testimony another time. All right. When did Yah ever need our donations? Let's go to Job chapter 22, verse 9. Right. Thou hast sent widows away empty, and the arms of the fatherless have been broken. So what this is doing is, what this passage is highlighting, when Job, you guys already know the story of Job, his body, he's dealing with all kinds of ailments in his body. His friends trying to figure out what's the source. So they're asking him, hey, maybe you're going through what you're going through because you didn't take care of the fatherless. You didn't take care of the widows. That's what he's highlighting here. Thou hast sent widows away empty, Rayaquam, and the arms of the fatherless have been broken, Daka or Daka'a. So Eliphaz was the first of Job's three close friends to address him after his personal tragedies. This was Eliphaz's third and final appeal to Job, spoken out of deep concern for his friend. He knew that Job was suffering and bearing excruciating pain due to a dreadful and possibly terminal illness. Eliphaz began to conclude that maybe Yah was punishing Job to lead him to repentance or to prepare him for death. So Eliphaz began to name some specific sins he thought Job might be guilty of. So he said not giving to the widows and fatherless, right? Disregarding, maybe he's going through all what he's going through because of how he's treating the widows and the fatherless, the orphans. Now, this is the law here. This is coming out of Exodus 22, verse 21 through 24. Notice what it says here. Thou shalt neither vex a stranger nor oppress him, for ye were strangers in the land of Egypt. Ye shall not afflict any widow or fatherless child. Let me read it one more time. Thou shalt neither vex Thana or Thawana, a stranger, Garyam or Garayam, nor oppress Lakat Tazah or Lakat him, for ye were strangers in the land of Egypt. Ye shall not afflict Aina, any widow or fatherless child, Mathai or Mawathai. The Most High is very strict on this. Notice what it says here. If thou afflict them in any wise, and they cry at all unto me, I will surely hear Shemai their cry, and my wrath, Apai, shall wax hot, and I will kill you with the sword, and your wives shall be widows, and your children fatherless. So the Most High doesn't play when it comes to disregarding those that are in need, making fun and mocking those that are in need. All right, let's continue here. So this law warned people not to take advantage of the weak and helpless in society, such as the widow and the orphan. So again, what is alms? Right? So these people, right? The widows, the orphans, these people are often weak and defenseless and are at the greatest risk in society. What is one of the biggest groups of people that the Catholic Church abused? Children, orphans, and women. A lot of those nuns. They abused those people. You can look at the horror stories on this. People that was vulnerable. Why? Because the widows, the orphans, these people are often weak and defenseless and are at the greatest risk in society. This law would apply to any person who is helpless, defenseless, unprotected, and vulnerable. But in most societies, the two most helpless classes of people are the orphans and widows. So the widow had she had dependency upon the provisions and protection of her husband. And now he was no longer there. Let me say that again. The widow her dependency was upon the provisions, were based on the provisions and protection of her husband. And once he died, that those resources, that protection was no longer there for her. And so men, right, especially during the biblical times, and we see this happening today among our communities, not just in the church, but outside the church, inside this Hebrew awakening. Guess what? There are men that are prowling, making attempts to prey on the women, the single women, the widows. We see it right now. It's happening in the church and outside the church. Men on the prowl making attempts to prey on them. They would come to gain personal or sexual favors or to offer fraudulent business deals. The widow would be bombarded with all sorts of proposals and most likely would be ill-equipped to handle them. Here's an example of that. Ruth chapter 2, verse 8 and 9. Then said Boaz unto Ruth, hearest thou not my daughter, not to glean in another field, neither go from hence, but abide here fast by my maidens. Let me read it again. This is Boaz saying this to Ruth, right? Go not to glean in another field, neither go from hence, but abide here fast by my maidens. Let thine eyes be on the field that they do reap, and go thou after them. Have I not charged the young men that they shall not touch thee? See, Boaz had to tell the men and on his property, stay away from the women. Come on, family. We still have to say the same thing about the men today. Stay away from the women. I know she's single. She's a widow. Leave her alone. Because even back then, our brothers and sisters were basically scheming, preying on the vulnerable, the widows, the single women. Come on, family, it's right here in the scripture. This is not new. This is still happening today among our community. Have I not charged the young men that they shall not touch thee? And when thou art athirst, go into thy vessels and drink of that which the young men have drawn. So, giving you clarity, Boaz spotted Ruth picking up leftovers, right? Leftover grain behind the women who were trying to, who were tying the grain into the sheaves, the bundles. Ruth had requested permission to glean behind the harvesters. He immediately sought to help her by inviting her to glean in his fields and in his fields alone. All right. So Boaz promised to protect and provide for her. He informed her that he had instructed his men not to touch her, keep away from her, and that she could drink water from the very jars provided for his workers. So again, I highlighted that the women were in a widow is in a very vulnerable position, but the orphans are in a more fragile position because they're young. They can't protect themselves by any means. So an orphan had little or no rights. They had no one to state his case, his or her case, or to speak out on his or her defense. They are alone without the protection of a parent to love and care for them. So again, did the alms replace the tithe? Family, did the alms replace the tithe? No. But let me make this clear. The tithe sets up the alms. We're going to get into the deep water here. The tithe sets up the alms. Let me say that again. You can't say you're giving alms and you don't tithe. They go hand in hand. The tithe sets up the alms. See, the Most High have structure, family. The Most High have structure. The tithe sets up the alms. They go hand in hand. You can't have alms and you don't have tithe. I'm going to prove this to you. Family. We're going to walk it through. We're going to walk this through. The Hebrew definition of tithing, ma'ashar or mashar, let's see what it means. It says a tenth, right? A tenth part, right? That's what the tithe is, a tenth, right? So tithe, ma'ashar, and alms work hand in hand together. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 14, verse 27 through 29. Let's give clarity here. And the Levite that is within thy gates, thou shalt not forsake him, for he hath no part nor inheritance with thee. At the end of 3 years, thou shalt bring forth all the tithe of thine increase the same year, and shalt lay it upon within thy gates. Let me read it again. And the Levites that is within thy gates, thou shalt not forsake him, for he hath no part nor inheritance with thee. At the end of the 3 years, thou shalt bring forth all the tithe of thine increase the same year, and shalt lay it up within thy gates. So what this is telling you, that the Levites don't have an inheritance. When Israel went to the promised land, guess what? Went into the promised land, the 11 tribes were given property. They were given territories, but the Levites didn't. All the other 11 tribes had to take care of the Levites. They gave a tenth of their increase, a tithe, and they gave that to the temple. They brought it to the temple, but it wasn't just for the Levites. That's what I want to make it clear. The Levites were those that didn't have an inheritance, but guess what? It didn't stop there. It didn't stop there. It says in the Levites, because he have no part nor inheritance with thee. In other words, the Levites don't have an inheritance, but notice what it says here. And the stranger, right? In other words, the foreigners that's among the Israelites, they don't have an inheritance. And the fatherless and the widows, which are within thy gates, shall come and shall eat and be satisfied, that Yahweh Elohim may bless thee in all the work of thy hand, which thou doest. So we see it wasn't just for the Levites. The tithe is not just for the Levites. The tithe is for the stranger. The tithe is for the fatherless. The tithe is for the widows. It's not just for the Levites. It was for all those that don't have an inheritance. Does that make sense, family? The tithe sets up the alms. If there's nothing there inside the storehouse, and I'm going to get into that shortly, what do you have to give? There was an order to it, family. The Levites, because they had no part in the inheritance, the stranger, the fatherless, the widow. These are what the tithe is for. But when you hear it in church, right, in Kojic, they make it clear. The tithe is for the pastor. The tithe is for the pastor. They make it clear. They make it clear that the tithe is for the pastor. Many ministries, they'll make it clear the tithe is for the pastor. All right. So let me share this again. The tithe, the Levites, the strangers, the fatherless, the widows, which are within thy gates. Okay. So Moses gave a strong message on stewardship to Israel. Moses covered several truths about the tithe, truths that are applicable to any generation of followers, right? Tithe is to be a regular practice. Tithing is to be offered at the worship center in the presence of the Most High. These are some of the key things that Moses highlighted. And Deuteronomy chapter 14:23 is what we covered, right? And here it is right here, just to reiterate this. And thou shalt eat before Yahweh Elohim in the place which he shall choose to place his name. There, the tithe of thy corn, of thy wine, and of thy oil, and of thy firstlings, of thy herds, and of thy flocks, that thou mayest learn to fear Yahweh Elohim. Now, this is what many are taking and running with. That's saying, hey, you know what? See here, the tithe is just about the food. It's food, it's grain. Family, no, it's not. The tithing is on everything. But we'll get to that. I don't want to jump ahead of myself. And thou shalt eat before Yahweh Elohim in the place which he shall choose to place his name. See, now we have order here. The people couldn't just say that they were going to be the stewards of it. They were going to do it themselves. No, that was something that was the Most High said he would put the place in, select the place to that's ordained by him for you to bring the tithe to. And here you see the tithe of corn, the tithe of wine, the tithe of oil, and the firstlings of thy herd and of thy flocks, that thou mayest learn to fear Yahweh Elohim always. So again, tithing is to be a spiritual testimony. Tithing is to be a flexible law. Circumstances of a person's situation, they are to be considered. So was tithe simply grain and animal meat? Let me say this again. Let me ask this question, and you guys can answer this, right? And we'll put it up on here, right? Was tithing simply grain and animal meat, food? Type yes if you believe that tithing was just simply grain and animal meat. Type 1. Type 2 is if you think that is completely different. And we'll read the results. All right, let's see what you guys put in here. Stacy Pullum, no, tithing is not just animal meat and grain. Black to my people, no. So far, it looks like we have just about everyone saying no. Let me see. Barbara Jones, no. Sister Carol, no. Victor Wheatley, no. Rockwell Patterson, no. Jay Bowl, no. We got one here, Black to my roots, say, yes, she agree that tithing is strictly grain and meat. All right. Let's see here. Joy, no. Daniel Cox, no. Monica, no. Sister Carol, no. All right, we'll break it down. Let's make sure we got it corrected. Maybe I said it wrong. So if you guys believe, let me say it again. Let me make sure I got it correctly here. I don't want to confuse you guys. I probably confuse my own self. All right. If you believe that the tithe was simply grain and animal meat, type 1. If you believe tithing is beyond that, is more than just that, type 2. All right. So I want to make sure I'm clear on this. So if you believe that tithing was strictly food and grain, type 1. Right. Because I know I probably confused you guys. I think I confused my own self. All right. So if you believe that tithing and grain, tithing simply is grain and food, type 1. If you believe that it's more than just food and grain, type 2. Okay. Now let's go through the results. Now I think I made it more a lot clearer, right? Someone put here tithe is strictly grain and meat, right? All right, with do-overs. Let's start at the do-overs. C. Brooks, that's right. We're gonna do it at the do-overs. We're gonna start at the do-overs. All right. Victor Wheatley, 2. In other words, it's more than just that. BB Ephraim, 1. Sister Carol, 2. D. Poe, 2. Wise Society, 1. Rockwell Patterson, 2. Yah Sun, 2. Ruckus Buck, 2. Black to my roots, 2. Sister Carol, 2. C. Brook, 2. Lyndon Graves, 2. You might be related to me, Lyndon Graves. Let's see here. Ban Yam Yan. Let's see here. All right, we'll get to that example. No one has to go to any of these temples. The Lord said he doesn't dwell in them. All right, we'll give clarity on that to make sure we have an understanding of that. Remember, it's where the Most High have approved. So that's right. The Most High is not at every assembly, right? Especially if you're teaching that we're not under the law and you think that the Most High is there. So Shemoth 77 777 2. Courtney 1. All right. So it looks like here the majority are in agreement that the tithe is more than just grain and food. All right. Let's see here. I'm just putting some additional votes up here. Malak Yashar Yukon Hanan. He put 2 in agreement that it's more than just this. All right. So let's go ahead and get this going here. Let's go ahead and get it going. All right. All right. Now, family, let's stay on topic here. Let's stay on topic. Let's not put a lot of other stuff there that's not on point with the lesson. All right. We don't want to talk about Easter. We don't want to talk about Christmas. We want to talk about all that stuff. Tonight, we're dealing with the tithe and offering. And moderators, if anyone is taking the discussion out into those type of things, give them a warning. If not, kick them out. Because we have to get in the habit of teaching this. When we having sessions like this, we don't have people inside, being distractions for those that really want to learn. So if there's anyone inside the chat that are having side discussions that is taken away from those that really want to learn, that's really trying to get this truth, put them in timeout. Give them a warning first. Put them in timeout if they continue. Then just put them out the chat altogether. All right. So if you want to hear some other discussions, go there. Right. Go there. But we don't want to do that here. We do not want to do that here. All right. So let's get back in here. All right. Come on, man. Enough of this. Right. All right. I'm gonna put them in timeout for now. Anything outside of that, we're gonna block. So we're gonna put them in timeout. Ban yan yam, yam yan. You're being a distraction. We don't want to do any name calling or anything like that. Let's make sure we stay on focus, stay on the target of what we're teaching. All right, let's get back into it. So you guys gave some great answers. So let's go and explain this. All right, let's start with Deuteronomy chapter 14, verse 24 and 25. All right. It says, and if the way be too long for thee, so that thou art not able to carry it, or if the place be too far off from thee, which Yahweh Elohim shall choose, the Most High shall choose to set his name there, when Yahweh Elohim has blessed thee. So it's telling you that if the way seemed to be too far for you, right? Because most people were bringing what is their source of their income. At that time, 95% of the people was in agriculture. So of course they're going to bring grain. Of course they're going to bring meats. That's going to be the primary source. So it can be a lot trying to carry their 10%. So if the way seemed to be too long, then they converted it over. It says here, then shalt thou turn it into money. And we're going to give clarity on money because at that time, they didn't have a currency like today, whereas though there were currency at, back in this biblical time when they was in the wilderness, because they started this whole system while they were in the wilderness. They didn't have a press machine pressing up their own coins and all this other stuff. But let's give clarity on this here, though. Then thou shalt turn it into money, and bind up the money in thy hand, and shall go into the place which Yahweh Elohim shall choose. All right. So what does turn it to money mean? Let's give clarity here. Does turn it to money mean paper? Does it mean paper and coins? Let's deal with the Hebrew definition of money. Let's see what it means here. Right. Kasab or kesef, safe. Right. It says here, silver. Money. But here's the kicker. It says silverling, right? So at that time, right, they can give pieces of silver in exchange for giving food, grain, increase of their cattle. So they had an option to do one or the other. But notice here, see, tithing is to be a joyful experience. Tithing is to be a benevolent witness for Yahweh's, to his people, right? Tithing is to be a beneficial exercise, right? So we're going to deal with one of the most poorly taught scriptures, right? Because right now we done proved that tithing wasn't just strictly food and grain. It dealt with monies or silver, shekels once they start getting into the shekel phase, right? It was more than just food and grain, family. But I'm going to show you here that by the time we get to this text right here, we know that tithing was more than just people bringing in grain. We're going to break this down. This text right here is one of the most poorly taught scriptures here. Here it is. Here it is, family. This is one of the most poorly taught scriptures. Malachi chapter 3, verse 8 through 10. Let's go into this. This is what many will go to. Will a man rob? Your translation would say God, but will a man rob Elohim? Some would say Elohim, but we're just dealing with the ancient Hebrew. Will a man rob Elohim? Yet ye have robbed me. But ye say, wherein have we robbed thee? In tithes and offerings. Ye are cursed with a curse, for ye have robbed me, even this whole nation. And it goes on to say, bring ye all the tithes, ma'ashar, into the storehouse, Atazar, or Atazar, or some would say Atzar, right? Depending on how you pronounce the Tazar. Someone pronounces Sade, but some would say Tazar. That's the ancient, while others will still pronounce it with a tz, like almost like a za sound. So it'd be, you could say Azar or Awatazar, either way. So it says that there may be meat in mine house. Now, you heard this being preached in Kojic. Come on, family. If you were in Kojic, you heard this. How a man robbed God, right? Y'all know what I'm talking about. So you hear this. You hear this in church. This is what they will go to teach the tithes and offering, to lift the offering, right? So is this passage dealing with food and grain? Is the storehouse that they're referring to is a storage place, kind of like a pantry, a food pantry? Are they referring? Did the priest steal from the food pantry? If you guys believe that this is the food pantry, type 1. If you believe that that's what the priest is guilty of, stealing food, type 1. If you believe that the priests were guilty of stealing more than just food, type 2. If the priest was guilty of stealing food and grain, type 1. If you believe that they were guilty of stealing more, type 2. And we'll read some of the results. So why society believe that they were stealing food and grain? All right. Let's see here. Rockwell Patterson believe it's more. All right. Black to My Roots, more. Sister Carol, more. Let's see here. Now it's starting to go here. Stacy Pullen, more. Dexter Lyons, more. Victor Wheatley, more. Depot, more. Jay Highstyle, more. So looking here, blessed and highly favored, more. Karima Lyricist, more. All right. You guys are on point here. Malak Yashar, more. Courtney, more. Let's see here. Shemoth, 777, more. Yvette Riviera, more. C. Brooke, more. So the majority, I would say probably about 95% of you guys agree that it was more. Ronnie Patterson or Pearson believed that it was strictly food and grain. All right. And we're going to answer this question, family. And again, we're not going to make anyone feel bad if they're correct. Or if they gave a correct answer or incorrect answer. That's what we're here for, to give clarity here. All right. So Yah's son, more. All right. Sister Joy, she says she doesn't know. We're going to give clarity. That's why we're doing this here. She says no. Dwight Patterson, excuse me, more. BB Ephraim, strictly food and grain. Let's see here. All right. Rashida Shalom, not sure. So we're going to go ahead and answer this question. All right. Appreciate the participation, family. Appreciate the participation. All right. Appreciate the participation. Here we go. All right. Let's answer this question. Let's start with the Hebrew definition of storehouse, right? Let's see what it means. It says here. Now, here's the answer right here, family. Here is the answer right here. Awatzar, or as we just pointed out, right? Otsar, that's the Israeli pronunciation. But notice what it says here. Armory, cellar, garner, Store, in other words, storehouse. Treasure, treasure house, treasury. So you see here, family, when we think about storehouse, see, most will go to the mindset of a food pantry. See, family, it doesn't make sense for the priests that already get free food. They get free food, right? When that burnt offering, guess what? The priest get part of that burnt offering goes to the priest to eat. So they don't have to worry about free food. It doesn't make sense for the priest to be stealing free food and then hustling free food. Y'all know what the priests have a problem with even today? Money. They don't care about the food. They care about the money. So as we see here, Awatazar or Atzar, it means armory. So when you see Malachi chapter 3, understand this when you're dealing with Bible translations and Bible transliterations. The words selection is at the expense of the person or group that's doing the translation. They're the ones that's making the selection. There's a lot of things that get lost in translation. See, most of you guys don't even understand the Hebrew word here is used interchangeably for armory, cellar, garner, store, storehouse, treasury, right? Treasure house. Let me prove this because I want to prove that this text is not dealing with a food pantry. It's dealing with the treasury, right? Precious minerals, precious metals are here, like silver and gold. But then you also have an armory, but it's all using the same word. That's where the weapons are stored at. But let me put this in proper perspective, right? The Hebrew word for storehouse, right? Awar Tizar, right? Or awarts. I'm not getting into all this, man, because I could say Awar Tizar or Atzar. But anyway, the Hebrew word for storehouse is still the same. Transliterates to storehouse. It transliterates to treasure. It's still the same word. But now let's put it in its proper perspective. Let's go to Joshua chapter 16, verse 19 for you to understand. When you read in Malachi chapter 3, the passages I highlighted, it falls right in alignment with Joshua chapter 6, verse 19. Notice what it says here. But all the silver, kasap, and gold, zahab, and vessels of brass, nakashath, and iron, barazal, are consecrated unto Yahweh. They shall come into the treasury. Notice you see the same Hebrew word, awatazar or atzar of Yahweh. So you see that the treasury, the storehouse, right, that the Most High is referring to, that the Levitical priest is robbing and stealing from the people, is the silver, the gold, the vessels of brass, the vessels of iron that was consecrated. Come on, family. It's right here in front of us. It's right in front of us. It's right in front of us. It is right in front of us, family. So I just proved so far that the tithe is more than just food and grain, and that the treasury that we're dealing with is not a food pantry. But let's walk this out. Let me give you more proof here. The Hebrew word for money, kasap, as I covered earlier, kasap, as you see here, silver, money. So we covered it earlier. But the Greek definition of store, because Paul even mentions a storehouse, right? We see here, to amass or reserve, lay up, treasure, keep in a store, right? To accumulate riches, right? We see it here. 1 Corinthians 16:2. Upon the first day of the week, let every one of you lay by him in store as Yah hath prospered him, that there be no gatherings when I come. Right? So let's go back here. Let's go back to Malachi. That there may be meat. In the book of Malachi, there's two Hebrew words that's used for the word meat that transliterates to meat. So we're going to cover both of them so that way we can put things in its proper perspective. Was the priest guilty of stealing meat? Right? Were the priests guilty of stealing food and grain? Malachi chapter 1, verse 2. Let's see the word for meat here. It says, but ye have profaned it, and that ye say, the table of Yahweh is polluted, and the fruit thereof, even his meat, akal, right? Or akala, but we see the meat, akal, is contemptible. Hebrew definition of meat in this particular passage, notice what it says. To eat, dine, eat, eater, eat up, feed, food, meat. So we see in this particular chapter, when we go back here, what the Most High is going at the really charging the Levitical priests with, they were allowing people to bring in sick animals, deformed animals as sacrifices. You're not supposed to bring sick, deformed animals in for sacrifice. Meat, akal or akala, but akal is what we're going to pronounce it here. They were bringing in meat that was deformed, right? Now let's go back to the Hebrew definition of meat that's used again, as we pointed out here, to eat, dine, feed, food. But let's go to Malachi chapter 3, verse 10. We are going to see that there's a different word that's being used here. Bring ye all the tithes, ma'ashar, into the storehouse, awatazar, that there may be meat, tarap, in mine house. And prove me now herewith, saith Yahweh of hosts. So we see this is a different word used for meat. Now let's go to the definition of it. Something torn, right? Give some examples here. Fresh leaf, prey, food. And then it goes further. It say leaf, meat, prey. But notice this word here, spoil, family. Spoil. Spoil. It didn't just say leaf, meat, and prey, but it also mentions the word spoil. The other word that we use for meat, akal, did not have spoil there. So now we got to get an understanding of that. So the storehouse was and is more than a place that was used to store grain. There was different storehouses. There was different, should we say, awatazar. There was awatazar for pantry, food pantry. There was awatazar that was for treasury, to store treasures. There was a watazar that was for the armory, to store weapons. So the storehouse was and is more than a place that was used for grain. So let's go to this key word here that was in that definition, spoil. Let's see what this means. Not tazal or not sal. Let's see what it means. It says here, excuse the background. This is not the correct background here, but this is the actual true definition here. Not sal. It says, or not tazal, to snatch away, pluck, preserve, recover, rescue, spoil. But here's the kicker in the in entry number 1, plunder. Now we on to something here. Let's go to Exodus chapter 3, verse 22. Let's see what how this word spoil is used here, right? But every woman shall borrow of her neighbor and of her that sojourn in her house jewels of silver, kasap, and jewels of gold, zahab, of raiment, and ye shall put them upon your sons and upon your daughters, and ye shall spoil not Tazal, the Egyptians. We see spoil here. Now we're dealing with jewelry, silver, gold, and other precious metals. Spoil. See, the scripture tells us Abraham gave a tithe. Right? The tithe existed before Israel existed. Genesis chapter 14, verse 18 and through 21. Let's see. We're going to see that the tithe is more than just food and grain. And Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine, and he was the priest of the Most High. Right? He was the priest of the Most High. He is the priest of the Most High. And he blessed him and said, blessed be Abraham of the Most High, possessor of the earth and of the heaven and earth. And blessed be the Most High, which hath delivered thine enemies into thine hand. And he gave him tithes. Now we see that word tithes, ma'ashar of all. There we have it. All of what? A tenth of what? And the king of Sodom said unto Abraham, give me the persons and take the goods. Rakash to thyself. Wait a minute. Take the goods. Take the people. Say, give me the persons. You take the goods. Hebrew definition of goods. Property, right? Riches, substance, possessions. So Abraham was going to give what? A tithe of all, but when he gave that tithe to Melchizedek, guess what? He gave a tithe of all that he had, the good, the riches, his substance, his possessions. So Abraham gave a tithe of all of his goods. Hebrews chapter 7, verse 14 confirms this. Did I say 17? Chapter 7 and verse 4, not verse 14. Now consider how great this man was, unto whom even the patriarch Abraham gave the tenth of his spoils. Come on, family. We're talking about going back to the order of Melchizedek. It's right here in front of us, family. So Abraham gave a tenth of his spoils of all that he had, all of his increase. Anyway, Greek definition of tenth. Notice what it says here. It says a tenth, a percentage, tithe, a tenth part of anything, a tenth part of booty taken from an enemy. So Abraham received this increase, right? When he had to go rescue Lot, he received all of this. He got all of these resources, this increase, and he gave a tenth of all that he had, of the bounty that he picked up, the spoils. So the patriarch Abraham gave a tenth of the spoils. Family, we just completely knocked down the notion that tithe is just simply food and grain. Come on, family. If we took that approach, man, can we have a ministry here? We can't pay the bills off of food and grain. But even those that believe that it's just food and grain, they're not being faithful with making sure that there's food and grain, that there's food in that storehouse for people to eat. But let's continue. Let me continue. I don't want to get into a side conversation on that. So we see here the top of the heap, the best of the booty, the best of the spoils. All right, we see it here. The patriarch Abraham gave the tenth of his spoils, the tenth of all that he had, as we saw here, of all that he had, the spoils. And the Greek word here, as we see, the definition of spoil, means the top of the heap, the top of the pile, the best of what he received. So also we know that that all what Abraham had given, that the tithe consists of all, is not just reduced to food and grain. Guess what? People was also included as spoil, resources, and a tenth. Because I'm going to show you a tenth here, a key place. I'll show you here in a second. So Abraham also acquired people, servants from Sodom and Gomorrah. And so again, the king of Sodom said it to Abraham, give me the person. So he asked for the people. That was part of the spoil. He said, give me some people. And he gave him servants. So let's go to Nehemiah chapter 11, verse 1. This is important here. And the rulers of the people dwelt at Jerusalem. The rest of the people cast lots to bring 1/10 to dwell in Jerusalem, the holy city, and 9 parts to dwell in the other cities. So now here it is. This is after the rebuilding of Jerusalem, the rebuilding of the temple, as far as the walls and everything, refortified the city. Now they're looking for a tenth, a remnant, the surviving portion, who's going to dwell in the capital of Israel. They cast lots to see who was going to be the privilege that was going to dwell in Israel, because then all the other tribes dwelt in there too. If you read the remnant, right, the remnant of other tribes dwelt in Jerusalem. It wasn't just the southern kingdom. It was all 12 tribes dwelt in Jerusalem. We know the priests were there. We know Judah was there and Benjamin was there. But guess what? The southern kingdom was there too. So we see a tenth. Come on, family. If you say you're the remnant, you're saying that you are what? That tenth. And let me give clarity here. Come on, brother Ephraim. Let's be real here. Those were his personal goods. Abraham gave a tithe of his personal goods. Why? Because those personal goods belong to him. Let's not interpolate what the text says. Those were his personal goods. He won those. That's his personal good that he get to choose to do whatever he want with, family. Come on, let's not make it more than what it is. Those are his personal goods. The tithe is an increase of all that you have. We can't make it into what we want it to be. It's straightforward. Whether you agree or disagree, that's why I'm going into the scriptures. I'm not here trying to convince anyone to tithe or not to tithe. I'm just giving you the truth, and whatever you do with the truth, whatever you do with what we're going through, I'm going over, then that's up to you. But let's make sure that we put things in its proper perspective. Those are his personal goods. Those are his personal goods. Let's make sure that we put things in its proper perspective. Because Abraham got a bulk of his property off of what? Others. So let's put it in its proper perspective. Those are his increase. All right. I'm gonna leave that alone, but let's not interpolate the text. Those goods are his increase. There was something that he didn't have. He gave a tithe off his increase, because that was already part of what? The law back then. All right. So let's not interpolate the text. All right. All right. Let's go ahead and get back into it. All right, family. Just want to address that comment, because sometimes we can make things to try to make things what we want it to be, or how we want it to read. That's not correct. Let's read it the way that it says. So the rulers of the people dwelt in Jerusalem. So a tenth of Israel, right, of all of Israel, of all the tribes, were chosen to live in the capital. So what was the primary form of income during the biblical times of antiquities? See, this is what we have to deal with. It during the biblical antiquities, what was their primary source of income? Because this is where another thing that gets lost when we dealing with these discussions. Let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 8, verse 15 through 17. This is going to tell you what their primary source of income is. And this is the Most High through the prophet Samuel, letting Israel know this is what's going to happen now that you selected a king. That king, on top of the tithe that you give, he's going to tax your increase. He's going to add a tax. He's going to add an additional tax. Notice what it says here. He, the king that you select, will take the tenth of your seed and of your vineyard and give his officers and to his servants. And he will take your men servants and your maid servants and your goodliest young men and your donkeys, right? Your horses, and put them to his work. And he will take the tenth of your sheep, and ye shall be his servants. So this saying, on top of the Most High, the king is going to take a tenth of all of their income. So we get a glimpse of what their income is, right? This is the primary source of their income. Seed, right? To grow vegetation, right? Servants, because you have people back at that time, indentured servants that was working off debt. You also have young men, right? For their armies, taking them and drafting them for their military. Your donkeys, said that they'll put them to work. He will take a tenth of your sheep. Now you're getting into wool, clothing. Take a tenth of everything, of all. Ezekiel chapter 27, verse 17. You'll get a glimpse here, right? Just give us a little glimpse. You read the entire chapter. You'll see the different trades that are here. But it says Judah and the land of Israel, They were thy merchants. They traded in the market wheat of Minnith and Panag and honey and oil and balm. Come on, family. It's right in front of us. So tithing, we already proved that tithing is more than just what people made it out to be. It's not just food and grain. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. Let me get this person out of here, because I don't have patience for this right here. It's right here, family. It's right here, family. If people want to believe what they want to believe, you believe what you want to believe. I'm giving you scripture. If you want to choose to interpolate the scriptures, do it in your own space, not here. Now, what's the question here? I think I saw why society right. Your question, that's a good question. I'm not sure what the question is. Let me see here. All right. Let me address this real quick. What do you give your tithe and offering if you no longer attend a church on Sundays? Well, this is what I would just say. This is where connect to an assembly that a good assembly that's doing the things of the Most High, and you bring your seeds there. That's one thing my wife and I we've always done. We've always tithe. Even when we was in transition. Right, we'll go visit different assemblies, and whatever assembly that we landed on that we got paid, or we gave them our increase until we actually found a place that we could go and worship. So we were just visiting places, and we'll just give them our tithe right there until we settled in at a place that we were like, hey, this is where we're going to worship at, and then we dedicated our tithe to that place. So that's a great question. I would just say, just use wisdom. And just do your research on these different ministries that are out here, connect to that ministry, and just, go from there. That's a great question. Appreciate the question. All right. So tithing, this is another thing that we hear, and I'm sure you guys heard this before. The tithing is done away because there's no Levitical priest. Have you guys heard this before? If you guys heard this before, type 1 inside the comment section. We're going to address this as well. All right. If you believe, or if you have heard this, that the tithing is done away with, type 1, because there's no Levitical priest. All right. So it looks like most of you guys have heard this. See, family, this is why it sounds good and it can sound convincing, but that's not biblical. There's no Levitical priest. That's what many would say, right? I'm just going through the comments here, showing you comments up on the screen. So far, most of you guys have heard this before, right? Depot. All right, putting it up here. And family, I'm going to show you which scripture. Every answer you give, and anyone that's giving you these answers, you should give it, go into the scriptures to prove what they're saying. Right? Because you hear this in the church, they don't use this argument in the church, right? They use a different set of arguments to push the tithe. But you have a lot of brews that are pushing a different set of arguments to speak against it, right? So you see, why society never heard of that before. Victor Wheatley heard it before. C. Stratton heard it before. Wayne Robinson. So most of you guys have heard this before. All right. So let's go ahead and give proper clarity on this. All right. Let's give proper clarity. The priesthood still exists, family. The priesthood still exists. Let's go to 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 5. Right? Let's start here. Ye also, as lively stones, are built up a spiritual house and holy priesthood to offer up spiritual sacrifices acceptable to the Most High, Yahweh, by Yahweh Shai HaMashiach, Jesus the Christ. So all of us are priests, right? Israel is a holy priesthood. Now, among the holy priesthood, you had the Levites that were selected to be the priest among the priests. Come on, family. If any one of us are established a place of worship, bless that place. See, part of the problem is our community, when it comes to the tithe, and we owe a lot of this to these preachers, they have made us think that tithing is a debt. Tithing, the tithing system is supposed to have balance among our community to make Israel self-sufficient, that you don't have Israel becoming a capitalistic community. Because guess what? And Nehemiah had to address certain Israelites that were taking advantage of the people with their property. The Pharisees were taking advantage of the people with their property. So again, the tithe was a system, a financial system to make sure those that don't have were taken care of, and make sure that those that may have not get so high up, to where so now they become capitalists among their community. There was a balance, there was order. It was to make sure that we don't see what we see today, that the United States is a capitalistic country, even though they may try to say that they're not. But yeah, it's a capitalist country. The 1 or 2% is controlling the 98%. Now, let's bring this home. 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 9, he reiterates this again. But ye are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood. So this tells you that these letters Peter wrote are addressing Israelites. But ye are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a peculiar people. He's quoting from Exodus 19, chapter 5 and 6. Chapter 19, verse 5 and 6. Now, therefore, if ye will obey my voice indeed, keep my my covenant, which is the 10 commandments, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure, sapala, unto me above all people. Yam or Amayam, for all the earth is mine. Verse 6, and ye shall be unto me a kingdom, mamalak, of priest, kahan yam, and a holy nation. These are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel. Family, we all are priests. We're all are prophets. If you really pay attention to what Moses said in Numbers chapter 11, that the Apostle Paul even quote, he said, man, Moses said he would rather have all the people be prophets, not just one group of people. Y'all better grab hold of this, family. This is why our community is depressed, because we've been institutionalized to fight against the very thing that was put inside our community to keep our community strong. So we take our resources. It's sad. The dollar only circulates in our community for 4 hours. Back during segregation, our resources, our monies, the dollar circulated in our community for months on top of months. We were the most prosperous community of all of the other communities inside this country. Black Wall Street wasn't the only community that was thriving. It was over 3 dozen communities, 3 dozen Black Wall Streets at that time. Come on, fam. We got to be real with this. Our communities were thriving because the dollar circulated. We weren't taking our money and taking it right over to the stranger. Now we're taking our money and going right straight to the stranger. Right straight to the stranger. We were investing. If you see some of the old footages, I encourage you guys to look at, go to my cousin Benaiah Israel YouTube channel. He has a video, about a 20-minute video of Black Wall Street. It shows you how our brothers and sisters, from investing into each other, guess what? They were prospering, owning businesses. Their community was were richer than all the other surrounding communities. You had a 10-year-old girl that was richer than the richest white man inside Oklahoma. Family, we need to start investing instead of investing in these people that are teaching that, hey, we're not under the law. Oh, these Creflo Dollars done become millionaires off of hustling the people. Creflo Dollar became the first billionaire based off of hustling the people for money. Kanye West, what put him over the top because he wanted to be a billionaire. He said in his own words, he's going to sell his music to the church, and that's how he's going to become a billionaire. And guess what? That's what he did. Let me answer this real quick. Depot, let me explain something real quick because I understand what you're saying here. But our own people charge an arm and a leg. Outside of that, don't teach each other right, or treat each other right. Let me just say something real quick towards that, and then we'll finish up this lesson. The reason why many of our brothers and sisters that have businesses, especially those that have hair products, sell hair products, have their own stores, supply stores. The reason why it seemed like it costs more is because, for example, the Koreans have a monopoly of that genre. So when people let's just say hair salons buy their product from them, they could charge them more for it. They can charge more for it to our people and their own people that may have beauty salons, stores or whatever, beauty salons. Koreans charge them less, right? Same thing. I remember asking this question when growing up in Newark, New Jersey. You start seeing bodegas pop up, and I asked the question because there was a brother man that had a store, but his stuff was higher than the bodegas. He schooled me when I was young. I asked a simple question. I was like, "Hey, Mr. B, why your stuff costs a lot more than the store down the street?" And that's when he put me onto the game. He said, these Spanish stores, they have their own distributors. They have their own distribution. So they tend to charge a lot less for their own. So that means that they can get more of a profit. But for his store, let's just say a gallon of milk, he paying a lot higher than his competitors. So he's still, even to try to get some type of small increase or a small profit, it still puts him higher than this competition. We don't own distribution. That was the issue with the early hip hop community, which I was part of. Most of them didn't have distribution. They went to the record companies, and the record companies did all those things. So the record companies were able to dictate. That's where the money was being made, distribution and publishing. All right. So we have to get better with our business and understand the art of doing business. All right. So Hebrews chapter 7, verse 11 through 15. Let's answer this question with the scriptures. If therefore perfection were by the Levitical priesthood, for under it the people received the law, what further need was there that another priest should rise after the order of Melchizedek and not be called after the order of Aaron? For the priesthood being changed, there is made of necessity a change also of the law. For he of whom these things are spoken pertain to another tribe, of which no man gave attendance at the altar. For it is evident that our Adonai sprang out of Judah, of which tribe Moses spake nothing concerning priesthood. And it is yet far more evident, for that after the similitude of Melchizedek, there ariseth another priest. So when we understand the order of Melchizedek, it's saying that we are, through the Messiah, under the order of Melchizedek. Now this is saying the Levitical priest is not the only priesthood. Judah is the priesthood, right? Now when we deal with the southern kingdom, you have Judah, you have the Benjamites, and you have the Levites. How can you tell who's who? How can you tell who's who? My DNA says that I'm connected to Limba. The Limba is connected to being the Levites, right? But then guess what? We all are part of Judah. For the most part, most of us are part of Judah, the southern kingdom. So how can you tell who's who? We all are a royal priesthood. So guess what? Through the Spirit of the Most High, you should be able to say, he's going to lead you to that place, that assembly that's of him. And guess what? That's where you bring the tithe into the storehouse. So that way there is what? Resources for others to be taken care of. Look, I in our assembly, guess what? I work a 9 to 5 and I give tithe. Right? I give tithe. My wife and I, we tithe from the beginning of this ministry. Still do it. We don't get an income. We don't collect a salary, even though according to scripture, we're supposed to be taken care of. But guess what, family? We don't even push that. We never push for a salary. I prayed from the beginning. Yeah, everything that we accomplish, I want to make sure that we purchase our homes before we get this ministry. So people understand we didn't use the ministry to capitalize on the ministry. They establish gains. Most pastors don't get a salary, family. Contrary to what many believe, most pastors don't get a salary. Believe it or not, a lot of pastors are struggling. Most pastors are taking monies out of their personal pockets to make sure those lights are on, to make sure that those doors are open. And if you're part of assembly, you know your pastor is doing that, you're in sin. Because the pastor is not supposed to be doing that. He's not supposed to be doing it all. That's in the scriptures. That's I believe it's is it Haggai? I believe it's Haggai chapter 1, dealing with how the people were so busy caught up in themselves while the temple was going down going in shams. See, family, this is the correct teaching of the tithe. The correct teaching of the alms. It's not just for the priests. It's for the strangers among us. It's for the widows. It's for the orphans. It's for us to be able to have balance, be self-sufficient among our community. Let me go ahead and finish answer these questions. We're almost done, family. Did Hamashiach receive the tithe? Guess what? We're going to answer this question. Did the Messiah receive the tithe? If we go to Mark chapter 12, verse 41, Yahushua, Jesus, sat over against the treasury. We already established what the treasury is. Notice what it says. Yahushua sat over against the treasury and beheld how the people cast money into the treasury, and many that were rich cast in much. Wait a minute. So he's sitting over the treasury. Remember, we established treasury. Atazar or Atzar, right, can be transliterated to storehouse, as far as a pantry, armory, also treasury, where monies are stored, resources are stored, silver and gold is stored. So the Messiah is sitting over the treasury, watching how people give. The Hebrew word for treasure, remember, is the same used for storehouse, as we pointed out, going back here. Awatazar or Otsar, we see armory, cellar, garner, storehouse, treasure. Treasure, storehouse, sub-entry treasure, gold, silver. When we go to verse 42 and 44 of this, through 44 of this text, notice what it says. And there came a certain poor widow, and she threw in 2 mites, which makes a farthing. And he called unto his disciples and said unto them, verily I say unto you, this poor widow has cast more than all they which have cast into the treasury. The treasury. For all they did cast in their abundance. Now we got to break down this word abundance. But she of her want did cast in all that she had, even all her living. So this abundance, let's define what abundance is. Let's break this down. Abundance. Let's see what it means. Be in excess, abundance, exceed, increase. So all the people gave a tithe. They gave an increase of their income, their possessions, their goods. They gave an increase. He didn't say that they were in sin. They gave an increase. They gave a tithe. but she made her all available. That's what the point that he was making, even though her all was far less than the increases that others had given, but she made her all available. So he says she gave more. That's what the text actually means. So the Messiah is making it clear. We see in the scripture, he stood over the treasury. He stood over the treasury, receiving resources. As we pointed out, silver, gold, right? That's why I said it again, it wasn't just food and grain. He was receiving silver, gold, right? And at this time, shekels, because during this time, they had a type of currency, shekels. I want to say thank you, Dawn, all is vanity. Thank you for the super sticker, family. Let's show Dawn, all is vanity. Let's show some love for the gift, the contribution that was given tonight. Thank you again for all that contributed to the works here tonight. Really appreciate you. Thank you again. Greatly appreciate it. All right. So let's show some love for Dawn. All is vanity. All right. So let's get it back here. Let's show it again. All right. So the Messiah stood over the treasure. He stood over the treasury. The people were given tithes. We already established. We can't say that they weren't. They were given increase, tithe of their increase. That was culture. You can't bend it or twist it and say, no, they weren't. Yes, they were. We already established that was part of the culture. The tithe was part of the culture. That was part of the law, right? So we can't say that they weren't. So they were giving increase. So all gave an increase, right? Deuteronomy 14:22, thou shalt truly tithe all the increase of thy seed that the field bringeth forth year by year. Deuteronomy chapter 14, increase thabawa, excuse me for mispronouncing. I don't know why someone to say put a lamed in it, thabal, but thabawaath or thabawaath, right? So excuse me for mispronouncing this, but we see increase of thy seed that the field bringeth forth year by year, right? So they gave a tithe of their increase, family. That's part of the culture. See, we've been hacked. We kick against this right here. We kick against sowing into our own community. Hebrew definition of increase. Notice what it says here. Income, an example, produce, fruit, grain, increase, revenue. The sub-entry B, income, revenue. So it's not just fruit. It's just not grain. It's just not wine and all those different things. It's revenue. Whatever is bringing you in revenue, they gave an increase, a tithe off of that. All right. Hamashiach stood at the treasury, watching the people give an increase. All right. Now let me say this. All right, LaRon Jeremiah, go back and watch the lesson. Listen to the fullness of the matter before you jump in and give in comments. That's not correct. It wasn't just food under the law. We just went through the whole lesson. So moderators, just make sure you pay attention to comments like this. Those that are jumping in, because this can bring confusion. All right, among the chat. All right, we already gone through this. We're not going to go through it again. I'm not going to explain the tithe. I encourage you, brother Jeremiah, LaRon Jeremiah, go back over the lesson and you'll get the proper clarity on that. That's not correct. So all did cast in their abundance, right? They all did cast in their abundance. The woman did not give food and grain, right? The people didn't give food and grain. At this point, they gave an increase. They were giving silver. They were giving shekels. All right. So we already proved this here, being that the Levitical priest is done away with. Does that mean that the tithing system is canceled? we answer this question? Absolutely not. Can we pick and choose what we give? The Most High made it clear. He would determine it, right? But then we also have in the scripture, and I'm not going to go to this portion of it. This is just a little overkill to me. How did the ancient Israelites determine who was able, right? They did have a system in place to determine who was able, right? And I got to clean up this slide anyway. So we're going to stop right here, okay? And family, I really appreciate you guys for the love and support, and just really going through this lesson here. And I hope this giving you guys proper clarity. And I'm just going to drop the link here in the comment section because we finished a little earlier than what I anticipated. Sister Carol, if you want to jump in, feel free to do so. I think I see my cousin here. I'm just going to open it up here, and I'm going to make it clear, if anyone outside of these, my relatives, my family jump on, please don't come here jump on this live as, trying to have me reteach the lesson. I'm not here to argue with you. Go back over the lesson before you form an opinion and or come to a conclusion. As I stated before, I'm not here trying to force anyone to tithe. All I wanted to do, my goal tonight was to give you proper clarity. Was Creflo correct? He was incorrect. Anyone that's teaching that the law of tithing is done away, they're incorrect. Anyone that's teaching that the tithe is strictly food and grain, they are incorrect, right? Anyone that's trying to put any other spin on it, they are incorrect. And I gave you nothing but sources upon sources. Anyone that's teaching Malachi chapter 3, saying that that's all about food and grain, I just proved to you that they are incorrect. So go back over, watch the video again. Feel free to hit me up in the inbox if you have any more questions concerning this. But I will say this again, there's it never fails. Many would literally send me the same old questions over and over again. And what I mean by that is, instead of just watching the presentation, they would just literally go back and ask the same question again. They would just literally say, hey, can you, the tithing is just food and grain. And I gave full clarity on that. So I just want to make it clear, I am not here to repeat, to echo what I've already taught. How's it going, Sister Carol?
Hey, Shalom.
How you doing?
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. This headset is kind of weird. Let's see. Is that better? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, good. Now you sound better. Yeah, I'm glad you did this tonight. Well, last 2 nights, because I have been seeing crazy stuff. I don't stay on Facebook. I left Facebook, but for some reason I've been driving through and I've been seeing some crazy stuff by people. And it's a shame that they latched onto this, but they didn't latch onto the law.
Yeah.
They grabbed hold of this, but you didn't grab hold to the law.
He says, hold on 1 second. Let me give some shout outs here real quick.
Okay.
Yikwaba, want to say peace and blessings. Thank you for the contributions. Really appreciate you. Let's show some love for Yikwaba, which transliterates to Jacob. Want to say peace and blessings. Thank you, my brother. Want to also acknowledge Monica Dixon. Thank you for the super sticker. Really appreciate you. Thank you for the contribution to the platform. This is our platform. And we are going to work on some giveaways. No raffling and nothing like that. We're just going to give away stuff. You know what I mean? To you guys. We're going to get some mugs. So we're going to get some T-shirts. And we're going to just start giving them away. We're going to give away some helpful resources as far as dictionaries, and because I have some great ones. Matter of fact, the one that I want to start giving away, I'm going to do a bulk order, see how much it costs. I think I have it here. I may have taken it down. I'm looking over here to see if I have it. I may have taken it down. I may have put it inside I think I put it inside my office, my other office, right? I think I took it out of here. I was going to show, but I'm going to give away some items here, like some of the sources that I use, like the etymology dictionary. But anyway, I want to say peace and blessings. Thank you again, Monica Dixon, for the contribution, the super sticker. I want to also say peace and blessings. Thank you, Wise Society, for the contribution. Thank you again. Really appreciate it. And family, let's show some love for our family here. Let's show them some love for those that are, contributing to investing in what we do here. Really appreciate you guys. Okay, sorry about that, Sister Carol, for interrupting you.
Oh, no problem. You needed to do that. Absolutely. I'm just glad that you took your time out and did this so many times repeated teaching on this. You have taught this, I know, 6 years ago when I met you, and over time. In fact, it even came up in my Facebook flashback memory. You did a whole teaching on this, so there's nothing new of a lesson, and it's just a shame that this topic is such a controversy topic as it is, when it was just purely simple. We just weren't taught properly. Now, believe it or not, my pastor at a Methodist church, in fact, one of the largest Methodist churches in the United States, taught tithing correctly. Of all the things that went on in church, he taught that correctly. Everything that you went through, he went through that with us. Now, mind you, the law part was still an issue, but he was trying to step himself out of that, but he unfortunately did not come out of it completely, but he did teach tithing correctly. And he himself did not take a salary from the church, although the Methodist Church do take care of their pastor, the parsonage, whatever they need is taken care of by the church, the United Methodist Church. But it's a shame. These smaller churches, black churches, the stuff that you were talking about that went into Cogent, I have seen that myself. I used to play for churches and travel to different ones, and a lot of them were Cogent churches, and it's just appalling, the stuff that they did. And my favorite one was the waving of your tithes in the air. Those who wave it high has the highest tithe. Bring them all down.
Mm-hmm. The so-called wave offering.
Yeah, wave offering. Come on down. Everybody popping up, waving.
Real quick, appreciate it. DeWitt Patterson, thank you for your contribution. And we'll work on trying to make a connection with you out there. Reach out to me offline, and we'll try to work something out to where so you could be connected to the ministry. All right. So reach out, shoot me an email, and we'll go from there. All right. Appreciate you, my brother. Go ahead, sis. I'm sorry.
Okay. But I was just saying, this the shenanigans that has gone on in abusing this particular commandment. That was supposed to be for us, as you stated, to take care of our people. That's what it was for a rainy day. So if something went on, we had it covered. We needed food. We know where we can always go to the temple to get food. The widow needed something. We took care of the widow. The children needed something. We took care of the children. Whatever was needed to keep the upkeeping of the temple. That's what it was for. And why would we think of it being anything else but that?
Yeah. I think one of the saddest stories when it comes to tithing that I've heard from the church is a truck driver, right? Who, was a faithful tither in his church. Put tons and tons of money into the church through the tithe.
Mm-hmm.
His truck broke down. He needed about 15, 20,000 to get it fully repaired. He went to the church. and they denied him, would not help him get his truck back on the road. And he gave far more than that. Far more than that. And they gave him nothing to help his truck. I remember, I'm not going to mention any names because I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus. But I remember my wife and I, faithful tithers, right? And you know how it goes when you buying a house. There'll always be something that happened at the last minute. I learned that after going through this process a few times. And I remember we went to the church that we was part of, right? Because at the last minute, it was like 2 days before closing, they said we needed to, put an additional $4,000 to keep our interest rate, lock it in at a certain rate at that time. And, they said we need to have it by closing. And we had already put our money, put our down payment on and everything. And, you asking us to pull money like that out of nowhere in 2 days. And I mean, it was so bad. I even had to, kind of give some stern pushback even to the financial system was saying, when they asked me, financial representative, when they were like, hey, do you have a family member you could go to? Maybe your mother, your father. I was like, wait a minute. I'm not sure where you're from, but where I'm from, my people, our parents don't just have that type of money just sitting around. Correct. So they told us that we needed that. So I went to the ministry that we were part of, and mind you, we gave far more than that in 1 year, far more than that. They said that they could give us $1,000 and put us on a payment plan, a 3-month payment plan to pay it back. And I literally said to the pastor, I said, wait a minute, you know that any new home buyers, it's going to take them about 3 years to get adjusted, to purchasing a new home, the budget and everything. I said, and you want us to give a payment, 3 installments to you on top of us pretty much exhausting our resources to get this house. I said, but we gave far more than what we're asking. And they were like, hey, that's the rules. That's the rules of the church. And I turned down the money and said, we're just going to have to tough it out. And needless to say, long story short, the Most High took care of us when we got to close and they waived it. Right. And we locked in to the low interest rate. But anyway, we gave far more to our church at the time than what we were asking for, and we got denied when we needed help the most.
Wow. Well, I will say this was in the news here in Houston. One of the oldest churches in this city, black churches. In fact, not even a black church, it's one of the oldest churches in Houston. This elderly woman passed, and the family was preparing her funeral service. And of course, they wanted to have it at the church. The church denied the funeral because she was behind on her tithes and offering. And they gave a printout to the family with a letter with the denial of why they could not funeralize their mother and grandmother at the church because of her non-payment over whatever amount of years it has been. And now the woman's in her 90s now, but she's supposed to still continue whatever she had to give to them. So they weren't going to have a funeral there. So again, brag on my church, my former church again. My church told them to bring the funeral there and they would take care of everything and worry about anything. But to do that, to say, oh no, we're not going to funeralize your mother. You can't bring the body here. You can't do anything that here. We want to conduct the funeral because she's behind in her tithes and offering. Come on, national news. To go with and of course when the reporters came to the church, no comment. They didn't want to comment because now the spotlight is on you. The audacity. And she had been this church. The church is it's 175 years So she had been there a good part of the time the church is really brand new. And you denying her to be funeralized in the church because she was behind in her past of her tithes and offerings to the church, so she can't come there. It's pathetic, and it's sad that how we operate, how we act when it comes to this subject.
Yeah.
In the church. Well, even the brews too, as far as that goes, but definitely in the church, because I've seen some craziness going on with the brews as well, as we can see in the chat.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of craziness going on.
Yes.
That's why even in the chat, that's why I made it clear.
In the comments too.
Yeah, because
that I have deleted some myself.
Yeah. It's just unfortunate, and this is why we see what we see today.
Mm-hmm.
This is why people are leaving the church in droves.
Mm-hmm.
And even within this awakening, you're going to start seeing the same thing happen in this awakening. Because you got a lot of brothers and sisters that are abusing the finances.
Yep.
Like I said, you got some camps. And I'm not sure if you was there when it followed me at the time on Facebook when I posted one of the camps that was charging their members like 20 to 30% of tithe.
Yes, I remember
and they got videos out there bashing pastors for abusing the tithe.
They turned them away. They came to the assembly to for service, and they got turned away because they hadn't paid their tithes.
I mean, family, people are doing all kinds of stuff that is not biblical. That is not biblical.
Yep.
That is not biblical.
Crazy.
So yeah, like I said, sis, that's why I wanted to do this lesson. And last night I didn't open it up because I was like, man, I did like 3 hours lesson last night. And that's why I was saying to the people, the original lesson, I didn't go over that law portion of it, but I did it because of what Creflo put out there.
Correct.
Because people are championing him, even among our community. Oh, look, Creflo said this and he said that. No, Creflo made it clear. His reasoning for going against the tithe is because he don't believe that we should be following the law, statutes, and commandments.
Because Satan's the one that you do about them laws and commandments. You heard what he said.
Mm-hmm.
The devil made you do it. That's the most craziest mess I've ever heard in my life.
So, family, this is why we have to start studying the word for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We have to use discernment, and even if you have to say, like Joshua had to say, as for me and my house, right? Don't get caught up in what other people are doing, whether other people are doing right by it or not. You do what you're supposed to do. Once the Most High had me release it, if the people don't do what they are supposed to do with the scriptures, then hey, you know what? I'm backing off of it.
That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I don't blame. Let me block this person right here. Somebody spamming. Go ahead, sis.
Okay. I was trying to read the chat too. I got both chats open. I got the chat on the backup channel.
As well. Brian Bull something was trying to troll.
Wow. I was going to tell everyone to have a few that's on the backup channel to please go to the at We Woke Now extended channel as well and subscribe there as well. I have a few over there already who I've been chatting with. But if you have not, please go over there and subscribe to the channel.
Yes, I'm going to go ahead and drop that inside the chat right now. And for family, the We Woke channel is there, and we're actually going live on there as well. Now, I'm going to do dual. So I encourage you guys subscribe to the channel. Let me go ahead and put this inside the comment section. Let's get that channel up to 1,000 subscribers at least.
Mm-hmm.
This is the We Woke Now channel extended. So in the event if we are blocked here, we can we could go over to there.
Right.
So it's called We Woke Now Extended, and from now on, we're going to do our presentations in dual places. But again, if you don't see me doing lives here, I'm locked down, so you'll see me over there. And we're going to start having our Shabbat lessons taught over there. So I encourage you guys, let's get that up. Let's get the subscribers up to 1,000 over there, and let's build that channel up like we did here. Thank you guys for even how we built up this channel. I mean, in a little more than 2 years of me taking this channel serious, we grew to where we are right now. And so it's nothing but the Most High and you guys. So really appreciate it. Any other things you want to share, sis, as we get ready to wrap up?
No, this was impactful. I'm glad you did this. I have to admit, I fell asleep on you last night.
Oh, that's good. I understand. I was up
Right.
late anyway.
Yeah.
I was up late anyway. And Why Society, the Patreon account is We Woke Now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's inside the About channel or whatever. So the Patreon information is there as well. Let me see.
Yes. And there's some good stuff over there. Any of you listening or watching tonight that want to learn ancient Hebrew, there's 7 lessons over there that he's posted. And I would suggest you joining and getting those instructions on how to speak correctly ancient Hebrew and how to read it as well. Great lessons.
And I'm going to copy the link over here. And I'm working on the last 3 lessons because it's 10 total lessons. I'm just updating the lessons because you know how I am. I'm very meticulous with my presentations.
Right.
So the presentations are like, 4 and 5 years old. So I'm actually going through bringing those last 3 up to speed, and I'll do the remainder of those lessons. And then what I'm going to do is, from that moving forward, I'm going to have key teachings over there.
Mm-hmm. Great.
That you won't see on YouTube, any of the YouTube channels. It'll be strictly for there.
Okay. Awesome.
All right. So I put the link there. Did I put the link there? Yes, I did.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
It's over there.
Okay. And family, again, if you have any questions about the lesson, shoot me an email and post your comments that you posted here. That matter of fact, you could keep the discussion going in the comment section there. And if you see anyone trying to be a distraction, let me know, because it's just a lot of people out here that's doing that. They're doing a number of things that's really trying to take away from what we're teaching here. And I'll tell you, sis, I had someone was trying to have me reteach the lesson. I'm like, you're asking questions on what's in the lesson.
Oh yes, I saw that. In fact, I jumped on that comment.
Yeah,
when you did the open letter. Yes, yes, that one.
It's like a whole dissertation. Like, hey, why? I covered those passages.
Everything exactly. Absolutely.
So
that's our problem.
Yeah.
That is our problem. We do not listen. We do not read, and more importantly, we do not comprehend. We stay on ready to go off, to come in and attack on something that they do not have any information to bring forward to explain what they're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
We got to get out that mode.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, sis, I'm about to take it down. I can barely keep my eyes open.
I'm with you on that.
But is there anything you want to share with the people before we wrap up?
Just read, people. That's all I can say. Just read with understanding and comprehension, and just try not to get in these trappings that I'm seeing in the chat about certain information that you do not have the correct information on. Read. That's what this book was written for us to have, for us to read and understand what the Most High wanted us to do. Well, we lost somebody else to tell us something differently, which is how we got where we are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I want to say thank you, Ernest Higgs, Brother Higgs, for the love and support. Thank you for the super sticker. Really appreciate you, my brother. And thank you, Dexter Lyons. Keep doing what you're doing, my brother. We've been in the ranks of Kojic, so you know how things are over there. And I thank you for making the connection over on Facebook. Really appreciate you, and thank you for watching the lesson tonight. And any final words, sis? I'm going to get ready to wrap this up.
No, I'm gonna turn it over to you.
Well, I want to say this to you, family. In the words of Moses, through the Most High given to Moses in Exodus chapter 14, verse 13 to 14, the encouragement that Israel needed, much needed encouragement, as they seemed to at that moment to come to a dead end after making that transition out of Egypt. So Moses had to encourage them with these words. Exodus chapter 14, verse 13 to 14. He said to them, "Fear ye not, stand still and see the salvation of Yahweh. These Egyptians that you see here today, you will never have to deal with them ever again. The Most High will fight for you." But here's the kicker, family. We have to hold our peace. We have to learn how to be quiet. Can't go back, can't stay here. Keep moving forward. Shalom.
Listen, Genesis chapter 11, verse 10 explains the genealogy of Shem. Shem was a black man in Africa. If you repeat this back, Genesis 14, verse 13, Abraham steps on the scene. Being a descendant of Shem, which is a fact, means Abraham too was Abraham, born in the city of a black man called Nimrod, grandson of Ham. Ham had 4 sons. One was named Canaan. Here, let me do some explaining. Abraham, Isaac was Jacob had 12 sons, for real, and these were the children of Israel. According to Genesis chapter 10, these were the children of Israel. According to Genesis chapter 10.